and while we are all up and awake and got a hot cup of coffee with us, was just to have a bit of a sort of a chat and a Q&A. What makes the US and Canada, North America, I guess, so important as a trading opportunity for UK and for Midlands businesses, number one? And sort of just allied to that, what role do you feel that the Transatlantic Chamber can play and does indeed play in helping businesses to make the most of that?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. There's a lot wrapped up in that opening question, so a nice easy one for me to start with. Thank you. For the West Midlands especially, as well as for the Midlands, if you look at the trade surplus that we have with North America and with the US, I think it's the largest trade surplus of any region within the UK. So they're very, very important, the whole of the North American market, not just the US, but Canada as well. And we mustn't forget Canada, because they're going to be significant and important partners going forward. Yeah, I mean, the trade surplus we've got with North America is bigger and better than the rest of the regions in the UK. So for us, it's really, really important that we carry on forging trade links. Obviously, there's also the historical and the cultural aspects to that, and we've been trading partners for a very, very long time. And as the world gets more increasingly challenging in terms of the politics and everything else going on around the globe, I think we're going to have to be very close allies, as we have been historically. And it's going to be really important that we keep those ties going forward.
And, the special relationship that gets talked about so often, I mean, is that, how true do you see that being? I mean, I guess from, your own experiences and links that you've forged, and how much is it, does every country feel that? Do they all kind of sort of roll out, we've got a special relation, and we've got one as well? And I know we sort of take great pride, don't we, in the UK, in the special relationship, but are we right to do that? And certainly at this time it does feel, can we leverage that to get a really good deal in the sort of coming period?
Yeah, it's often used a bit of a cliche, but I think I've certainly experienced it, and I know you and I have when we were over recently in Chicago. There is a fondness and a special relationship, I think, between us. We have so much more in common than we have not in common. And I think, the opportunities with the language in part of America, at least, because we've got to remember Latin America and the Spanish speakers are predominant there as well. But I think there is a special relationship, and I do think we see ourselves forging ahead in the world together more than we are apart. Regardless of who the president is, I think that relationship in the business community especially, and that warm and friendly relationship that I've certainly experienced, and I know other colleagues have experienced in the US, is certainly there. It's not just words, and I think it is better than some of the relationships that we have to work harder on elsewhere. That doesn't mean to say we don't have to work hard, do the deals, and to make sure that we can get everything we want out of the relationship that we've got with North America going forward. But I think it is a special relationship, and it's one we can capitalise on, yes. And
to that point, how much do you think a trade deal really matters? Or actually, is there an element where that's, people can get too fixated on it, and it'll be great for the politicians when they can wave the bit of paper and sort of point to it, but actually business goes on anyway, and it's about building those relationships. And I suppose one of the roles that we see as being absolutely essential for the chamber is to help businesses to sort of navigate the complexities of the markets in the US and Canada, and to also sort of put people in touch with good contacts on the ground who can help them to land the idea and avoid some of the pitfalls that others would have sort of trod on. And so do you think that we almost focus too much on the trade? And actually, if you're a business wanting to go and sell in America, then you know what? Yeah, you'll obey, you'll follow whatever rules you need to follow. Yeah, but actually, it's about understanding the market, understanding how you can cut through, how you can get your product or your services sort of out there. Is it?
Yeah, I think you've read my speech from last week at the Centre for Brexit Studies conference, which was an interesting one. There was a wide range of speakers, wide range of views. But I said in my opening address that I think people are fixated on the deals and getting all the deals done by Brexit time. I don't think that's a reality. I don't think there is enough time to actually get all of those deals over the line. And regardless of that, I think you're absolutely right. Businesses will get on and do business. And we are here as the Transatlantic Chamber to help navigate through those choppy waters, deal or no deal, as they say. And we're going to help and support businesses to do business with business. And just make sure that whatever the rules, whatever the complexities are in place, we can help, along with national government and obviously DIT and others, help those businesses do business before any deal is actually signed and done. And I think that's going to be not just for North America. I think we're going to be in a really interesting situation with deals right across the globe. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's regardless of those deals being in place, businesses need to do business, and we will find a way. We will find a way around all the red tape and the bureaucracy. And we will make sure we can support people where they want to do business.
Yeah, and that is certainly where the chamber network, and I've sort of, I know we've all seen this, haven't we? Really, but it's such a calling card, and it's very reciprocated. We do it where someone says I want to go and do business in country X, and we can make a link, pick up the phone, or drop an email to the chamber there, and almost. Yeah. It's that, and it happens to us as well, and it really does get you through the door because chambers exist to support businesses, no other reason. And it is for anyone sort of watching who's new to that. It's a great network to tap into, and where we endeavour to work hard and sort of to build on that. And I know you talked about some of those the sort of the webinars, certainly in with the different chapters that we've got out in the States and Canada, and they're a nice way, aren't they, to make the connection and to get relationships started. I can see that Robbie's dropped a question here about Canada. And, well, you can sort of see it here, Julian. So with the challenges that the US has had from handling COVID to its political and economic challenges right now, do you think there is a greater emphasis or opportunity on doing business with Canada now and into the next few years?
Yeah, and I think Canada is strategically important for the UK. And I think given all of the comments in the chat bar about the difficulties currently in the US, Canada is a really important market and one we should be pursuing and not forgetting whilst we're trying to get through whatever happens in the US with all of the different circumstances and conditions. Canada is a really important market. You're absolutely right. And it's one we should be pursuing with equal vigor.
I was going to add a perspective as well there, which has stuck with me. I was in Toronto with the mayor a couple of years ago, and we were sort of going around and meeting lots of people and learning an awful lot. And we met with a law firm, and the senior partner, never forget this, he sort of said, from a Canadian perspective, we love the UK. We've lots of historic links and sort of blood ties and around the sort of the Commonwealth, etc. And he made this really telling point of, but we don't need you, and almost like don't patronize us, because actually Canada looks south to the US, it looks west and into sort of Asia Pacific and obviously to Europe as well. And they got the sort of the trade deal with the EU, and so and he said it in a lovely way, as always. Our Canadian sort of friends would do, but when it just lands, and I think there's that sense of, and probably to your point, Robbie, there, don't forget about Canada or treat it as an afterthought, or kind of, it'll be easy to do a deal with Canada because why wouldn't they? That's almost condescending, isn't it, or patronising? And actually, Canada had come through the last economic crisis really, really well, and sort of is in a pretty good state, and suddenly I think the scales are far more in balance, or maybe even slightly in their favour than we might realise here. And I think that there really should be a big emphasis, but on taking the opportunities with Canada really, really seriously, because again, it's still a very, very big market, isn't it?
Yeah, Canada is a really big market, and it's a really good point made by the lawyer, obviously in a very softly spoken way, which most Canadians are. And it's an interesting one because I spent some time last Friday with a very important Indian businessman, and it's very relevant, the words he said to me. He said to me, "I'm over here. You're a tiny, irrelevant, minuscule island in the middle of nowhere, connected to no one, especially when you go out of the EU. You're absolutely on your own." He said, "So why do I love doing business with you?" He said, "Because you're a country that knows how to do business." He said, "You're a trading nation, and I don't know what it is about the UK." He said, "But regardless of what happens with your deal with the EU, India will be a significant market for you. And there's something quite special about doing business with you Brits." And he said, "And we're going to be doing something really interesting with the Commonwealth." So, back to the point made by the Canadian, we do have to work hard. We can't take people for granted. We can't just rock up and try and knock on the door and do a deal. We do have to take this really, really seriously, and we have to go about it in the right way and treat them with respect.
And I suppose, thinking of Canada, then, I mean, the Commonwealth Games coming to Birmingham under 2 years is a great opportunity for, additional focus on Canada. And I know part of the TTI program, the tourism trade and sort of investment side of things, which, is really going to aim to focus on 5 particular countries, of which Canada is one of them. I think India, Australia, Malaysia, and Singapore. But it does mean that the game says Birmingham on the T-shirt, doesn't it? I know BCU are very closely involved, and certainly with the stadium as well. But probably, with everything else going on, and Robbie in the question pulled out the current challenges that the US had, but also with the games coming, then over the next 18 months, 24 months, it gives us that great opportunity for a bit of a focus there, in addition to the US, which is obviously just so big you can't ignore it at any time. Just looking at a couple of other questions in the chat, and I suppose Harry and Steve, just going back to the US trade deal, and totally agree with Harry here that the sort of the protectionist agenda and that sense of tit for tat really can make products and services uncompetitive. And I think we're probably a majority of free marketeers, aren't we, on the call, and very much linking back to the sense of being that as a trading nation. So that is very worrying. And to Steve's point then, sort of what's your views, I guess, on the threat to the trade deal following Biden's recent comments? And I suppose it's how do you filter that, Julian, from its electioneering versus what the reality will be once the election is over? Do you sort of see the risk that the walls just keep going up, and all these sort of tariffs coming into play, and by leaving the EU, I guess we've left a trading bloc. So that's the decision. That's one of the consequences of the referendum, isn't it? That we've sort of gone out there and said, no, we don't want to be part of a big trading bloc. We actually believe we can do better on our own, which some might argue isn't around protectionism, but some might say potentially it does have a whiff of it.
Yeah, I mean, my view on this, I'll go back to what I said at the Centre for Brexit Studies conference. There's a lot of posturing at the moment, and there's a lot of position playing in terms of the politics in the US especially, but also globally. We're trying to do a deal, and we all set our stall out and make our very limited positions known in terms of negotiations. And I think Biden is positioning it really interestingly. As I said, I don't think everything will be signed and sealed by the time we exit. But I'm not that concerned about that. I think the reality is we will do deals with all the partners that we want to do deals with after the deadline if we can't secure them before. So I'm not as gloomy as some of the other panelists were on the day of the Centre for Brexit Studies. I think we will have time to step back and rationally look at it once all of the posturing's out of the way. So I'm less concerned than some of my other academic colleagues on this one.
We've got a couple of comments as well from your vice presidents, from Eileen and James. I think Eileen's made a great point there, just around the opportunity for collaboration with the different chapters in the US and Canada, many of whom, very proactive members, been to the conferences that we've put on, and again, flagging the interest in Birmingham and the spotlight that we're going to have with the games. And I think, Eileen, we all completely agree, and that's something we're working hard, I think, to leverage. Probably, the technology that we're on now, and it makes it in some ways a lot easier to connect and to get dialogue going. But in many ways, I often think that the interest in Birmingham and the positive reaction is greater overseas even than in our own country. I think sometimes the perception challenge is greater in the southeast than it is in the Midwest, if you know what I mean. And then, James's point, which maybe links around that, and the idea of sort of virtual connections. But how do we get around the real problem of not being able to get to the US to trade? And certainly, who knows when we will be able to sort of travel to any sort of extent really going forward. And can business really be done virtually? I don't know, what's your view on that, Julian?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. I've got several deals that are going down in India at the moment. And, I was hoping to have one of those closed off this year. It might tip into next year. And it's difficult for all of us. But having said that, with the Transatlantic Chamber, for instance, as my vice presidents have pointed out, there is a really big network there, trusted network, people that are in our family, in our stable, in terms of the transatlantic. So I think we've got to leverage and use our relationships more with those other chapters. And don't forget, they're going to have to be doing the same. So, it's not just us sitting here using digital platforms. It's the whole of the globe using digital platforms. We're all going to have to find a way through this in terms of trading. And you and I know it's no better way than to do a deal by sitting face to face over a glass of something, or a cup of coffee, or whatever, face to face. But the stark reality is we are where we are in terms of the global pandemic. And we just have to make sure those relationships that we've built and we can support businesses with and do the introductions from a safe perspective. So, I urge businesses that are trying to do business in both the US and in Canada to use our network. Come and speak to us. Come and use the networks that we have to actually make those introductions and introduce to safe environments for doing business on virtual platforms. It's going to be difficult, but we've got to carry on.
It's certainly, you're right. It's a way of facilitating conversations, isn't it? And it's probably, if you've already got an existing relationship, or you've already, sort of been able to land something before, that will help. And, being able to jump on a Zoom or Teams call can progress that. If you're coming in completely cold, imagine it is difficult if you're trying to sort of demonstrate a new product. I know you mentioned FlexiServe as a new patron, and we've got to know them a little bit in the past couple of months, and their success and growth in America. To be fair, it's global, but particularly driven by the States is phenomenal, and that's getting their product, which is in sort of Circle K out there, and it's that sort of counter where it's a grab and go hot food, and it's the technology behind it is phenomenal. And if people haven't seen or heard, then there's certainly coverage in Chamberlink, and you'll be hearing a lot more from them going forward. But they've already got that in, and for them it's around now just pressing the foot down on the gas and motoring forward, and the challenge is almost keeping up with the demand. But and you can use virtual sort of tools then to just progress that. But I think it helps when you've already, as I say, got a bit of an established relationship.
Yeah.
And I know Mark's just popped a question around sort of digital networking events where we can meet the different chapters, and I don't know, Mandy wants to come in, but that's something absolutely. I mean, I think we've talked about that, and I believe we've got a schedule sort of coming out in the next short while, haven't we, Mandy?
Yeah, we have, and I think this is where we can really get leverage from my position as Vice President of the British American Business Council. And I would have to say as well, Mark, that this situation that we found ourselves in the last 6 months has presented so many digital opportunities that we probably wouldn't have looked at previously. And personally, I feel closer to those chapters now than ever before, and I've been part of the organisation for a number of years. So we've started to really get to know each of the chapters individually, and the work that we've been doing over the last couple of months with them is now enabling us to put on those chapter events that you've just mentioned. So Steph is going to be leading, Steph Bowes is going to be leading on those, and we are just putting together the programme of events, and we're hoping to get to do a digital event with each of the chapters where we will be able to promote the benefits of trading with our region, and they will do exactly the same from their chapter and their state. And then what we will do is have virtual networking between the members of both our Transatlantic Chamber and their chapter in the States. So yeah, it's really made us think about it. How can we develop this and get more out of it?
When's the first one likely to be, Mandy?
It's likely to be in November now. So we're looking at working with Texas firstly, and then we will follow with the suite of all the different chapters. And we've got plenty to go with. And I think Canada is also one of our early ones.
Great. Thanks, Mandy. Julian, just a quick sort of take on the election. And I suppose I'm mindful, and we've seen this at some of the conferences before, where it's great drama and, the Trump era, whenever it ends, be it in November or in 2024, will be one I'm sure historians will look at and puzzle over for a long time to come. But although a lot of businesses just kind of go, actually you park it, don't you? Because businesses connect with business and crack on whoever's in the White House. But I mean, what's your take on it and bits you've picked up and views on that election and how do you see it going?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting one. I mean, for us, we're obviously politically neutral as the Transatlantic Chamber, and we'll deal with whatever situation happens in the White House there. But what I'm certainly picking up from conversations, I think Donald Trump's going to find it extremely difficult to get back in. I think there's enough of a headwind from different directions, from handling the pandemic right the way through to some of the other demographic tensions there are in the States. I think he's going to find it really difficult. I mean, he relied very heavily on those that felt excluded from the mid-states, if you like, from the old industrial areas. They're now unemployed in large numbers. So even his voters that voted for him last time, I think, will stop and have a look and say, okay, what's the direction we need as a nation? That's not to say, I mean, he pulled off a stunning victory last time against quite a lot of people thinking he wouldn't get in. Never bet against him, but certainly the mood music that I'm picking up is he's got a really, really tough fight, and I think Biden's positioning himself really well.
And I know we've got plans for some activity around that, and I believe we'll probably do the sort of election breakfast. I think 4 years ago, I remember driving to Birmingham Airport where it was being held, and one of those moments, listening on the radio and thinking, didn't expect that. It's a two-horse race, but it was still pretty remarkable. There was a sense of everyone being sort of quite stunned in the room, and quite a lot of press interest. So again, a great platform for Transatlantic Chamber and for members who are involved there to sort of talk about their sort of links and connections. And Julian, probably just finally, while we've got you, and maybe more closer to home, just wanted to check in on everything with the university. Obviously, lots of focus right now with students coming back and managing through with COVID. How are students at BCU and staff as well?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing remarkably well relative to quite a number of other institutions. Obviously, BCU is very different from our neighbours. We've got 76% of our students come from Birmingham or the West Midlands. So we haven't got the very large halls of residence with students, coming to stay from all over the globe and all over the country, although we do have a very good international footprint. So our problems are slightly different from our neighbour institutions in the West Midlands and in the UK. With coping, we went out with a very bold statement that we would provide the majority of teaching face-to-face throughout the first year. So that's 51% over a year. We're trying to keep to that commitment, but it's a really interesting in the press at the moment how universities are footballs, political footballs for government to look at in terms of COVID. So we're seeing an onslaught at the moment from press with activity for interviews. And yeah, that's unfortunate when we all need to actually stick together. If students weren't going to university at the moment, what would they be doing? You look at social cohesion, social unrest, you look at life chances for people going forward and how that would be impacted if there was a whole year out for people. It's some really interesting dynamics out there at the moment, both with central government and with the press. And I just hope universities aren't made scapegoats for a second wave, because I think it's coming anyway. It's not just the students out and about. You look at other members of the general society. It's we're doing okay, thanks, Paul. But it's going to be a very challenging next 6 months.
But I think in there, your sense of sticking together, that's absolutely right, and it's a sort of a bit of a chamber mantra, really, and that's what it's about. It's about businesses sticking together, supporting each other, and supporting each other in opportunities. Which there's lots there. I mean, thanks, Julian. I mean, I'm going to give you a chance for any final words in a moment. I mean, from my perspective, and Mandy's and Steph and the team here, it feels it's been a strange sort of 12 months, certainly the last sort of 6 months. I think the global conference gave us a great platform and really sort of just cut our teeth on how we can continue to play a key role in championing international trade. Sort of for businesses in the Midlands and to the rest of the world, and the lots of lessons learned, I think, from that as well, of how you can expand the reach over and above what you can just do when you're physically together. So lots and lots to sort of pick up on, and we're going to be rolling that through the coming year. But I think that sense of activity, let's get out there, let's really help businesses use the digital platforms, connect the sort of the series of events that Mandy has said with all of the sort of a fellow chapters out in the States. It gives, and Canada, so giving us the full reach. There's going to be tons of opportunities, and it feels like that we it's almost like a responsibility, isn't there, for us to pick that up. The US, Canada, there's such big markets that we need businesses to be trading overseas far more than they do. We've got to help them more than ever to navigate the onslaught of noise, be it around Brexit or trade deals, or there's lots of reasons to just go, it's too difficult, that sounds too sort of scary, I won't bother, I'm just going to sort of stay looking domestically. But actually, when you do lift up your eyes and you can crack it, I mentioned FlexiServe, but also got people like Gymshark closer to home, who again, it's a global phenomenon, but success in the US market has really driven that. It feels like, I don't know about you, I feel pretty motivated to make the most of that, and I think that's that call to all of the the exec committee as well to, that's on us, isn't it? We can pick it up and we'll drive it forward. And what we'll make sure from the chamber point of view is that we put on the activity so people can engage and can get involved. But so exciting time ahead. But Julian, any sort of final thoughts from you as well?
Yeah, you picked up quite a number of my thoughts for this year. I can remember a couple of conferences ago standing up and saying, it's never been more important than joining the Transatlantic Chamber because of Brexit. We're in a whole different ballgame now with what's going on in the world. So I'll say it again, there is no better chance to join the Chamber and the Transatlantic Chamber especially, because it's going to be a significant year. Whether the deal is done with the US and with Canada by the deadline, I don't really mind. Hopefully it is, but if it isn't, I think we can still have plenty of time to actually do that deal. So I'd like to, say to my executive committee here, we've got a lot to do. There's an awful lot of ground to cover in terms of those relationships and building on those networks that Mandy mentioned with the other chapters, both in the US and in Canada. And we've got to really go for it. And give our business community in the West Midlands and the wider Midlands area, because it's East and West Midlands, we cover, mustn't forget our friends in the East here. Give them real opportunities and show them a path and a clear way through those complexities and that bureaucracy and all of the political posturing and everything else. We've just got to stay firm and redouble our efforts, I think, in this really weird time. And it's not going to get easier over the next 6 to 12 months. I don't want to end it on a negative, but we're going to see some significant challenges, and we do need to really push ahead. It's a huge market. The North American market is massive for any SME, medium-sized business or larger business. It's huge. We really need to help businesses connect and grow. Yeah.
Well, let's get busy doing, hey? So,
Absolutely.
President Beer, congratulations to you and congratulations to everyone on the exec committee, and thank you as well for sort of stepping up and giving that time and effort to the chamber and to sort of furthering our business community. I think it's chambers only exist because of individuals like all of you who do that, and chambers have existed for an awful long time, so we're carrying on that history and that heritage, and let's go and make a difference in our moment and our time right now. But I think with that, thanks to everyone for jumping on so early. So the AGM is done. We got through the formalities, and thanks to Julian as well for being so open and candid and forthright as well in the Q&A. And oh, look.
After a number of years of lobbying, we've done it, team. We've actually got a transatlantic medal now. So thank you, Paul. Thanks the chamber team.